afternoon, Silkstone. I hope you've had a lovely day at home today or at school. The weather outside's been absolutely beautiful, so I hope you've had a chance to be outside. I'm reading the second chapter of the novel by Robert Klein, Boss of the Pool. If you missed chapter 1, please go into the YouTube and have a look at chapter 1. Okay, chapter 2. Shelley spent most of the following day ringing up all the girls in her class and angling for invitations to stay the night. Liz was going to a film with her family. Petra had already left for her holiday. Denise was sharing her room with one of her cousins. There was no answer at all from Megan's house. At 6 o'clock, Shelley still hadn't found a refuge and would have actually welcomed Mrs. Murray's return from Albury. "Hurry up, Shelley, or I'll be late for work," her mother called. Shelley trailed dismally out to the car and banged the door after her, maintaining a stony silence all the way to the hostel. Anne parked the car, hesitated, and said gently, "Shelley, won't you come in and say hello to the kids?" Shelley didn't bother to answer. She opened her library book and began to read, and her mother went into the hostel alone. The library book was no more interesting than the one she'd read at Mrs. Murray's, and something had gone wrong with the cassette player, making the tapes crackle with static. There was nothing else to do except read the street directory. She kept her head down. That weird-looking boy was plastered against the door again, staring out at her. They shouldn't let people like that stand about where ordinary, normal people had to look at them. It wasn't right. She grew conscious of a need to visit a bathroom and tried to ignore it. Eventually, she had to leave the car and go to the front door of the hostel. She peered warily past the large boy with his disturbing face, hoping to see her mother, but the foyer was empty. There was nothing else to do except knock. The boy beamed at her horribly and fiddled about with a complicated deadlock to open the door. "He's weird," Shelley thought. "Utterly gross. And the worst thing is that he doesn't seem to even realise it himself." He grinned happily as though she had finally decided to come out of the car just to pay him a visit. "Where's the toilet?" she muttered. He grabbed her arm and pulled her helpfully down a long corridor. Shelley looked about frantically for her mother, but the corridor was deserted. At its end, thank goodness, was a lady's sign on a bathroom door. "Thanks for showing me," Shelley said, putting all the dismissal she could into the words. She shut the door in his face and spent a long time in the bathroom, giving him plenty of time to go away. She washed her hands and combed her hair in front of the mirror. She tried her V-neck shirt on back to front to see if it would look smart, the way Megan had been wearing all her V-neck shirts this summer. It looked stupid, so she put it on the right way around. At least she'd given that terrible kid ample time to take himself off to wherever people who looked like that went in their spare time, she thought. She tiptoed to the door and opened it carefully, ready to make a dash along the corridor and out through the front door to the safety of the car. "You took long," he said, standing with formidable patience just outside the door. "What's your name?" "Shelley, though it's none of your business," she said, stepping around him. "Berry?" "Shelley." She hurried up the corridor and tugged at the front door. It didn't budge, and the locking mechanism was complicated. She looked back. The boy was still standing by the bathroom door, gazing after her wistfully. Shelley tugged urgently at the door again. "Are you Anne Trelaw's daughter?" asked someone in a white uniform, emerging from one of the rooms along the corridor. "You don't have to wait out in the car, dear. It must be so boring out there for you. Would you like a cup of tea? Supper's on now in the big room. Ben, take Shelley through, will you, love?" Shelley tried to think of an excuse, anything at all, not to have to go through those inner glass doors, into that room full of people she could just see from the corners of her horrified eyes. No way would she go into that room. There was someone, something, in a wheelchair, with both cheeks disfigured by a huge dark birthmark. And there was her mother, calmly helping that person, that thing, to cordial and biscuits. The room seemed, to her panic-stricken eyes, to be full of grotesque people, moving as though in slow motion, gesturing in strange, uncoordinated ways. Some of them were quite small children, but not like any children she'd ever seen. And the adults among them were like badly distorted photographs of proper adults, taken with a faulty camera. She peered, appalled, at a hideously stunted woman who scuttled aimlessly like a spider along the wall, from chair to chair, vacant eyes, nightmare hands clutching. She couldn't possibly go into that dreadful room. A hand reached out and took hers. "Smeary, my friend," the boy said. "She come see me. She come see my room, my posters, and Bear and that." "Oh, no, I really don't want to, thanks very much," Shelley protested, but she was hauled back along the corridor. His room was right at the end, with a number on its door. While she was thinking how awful it must be to have a number on your bedroom, as though you were a letter in a post office mailbox, he flung open its door with a tremendous, baffling pride. She glanced briefly at the posters of some dated pop groups on the walls and a teddy bear in a football scarf and pom-pom hat on the bed. There was a large coloured print of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. The rest of the room was just cupboards, linoleum and a certain chilly tidiness. The boy, who was too big to be a child, picked up the bear and held it under her nose. "Richmond," he said. "Tigers. What your team? What do you say your name?" "Shelley, I already told you twice," Shelley said irritably, not looking at the bear. "And I don't barrack for any football team. I hate football, and I've got to go now, anyhow. Goodbye." She looked out to make sure that the nurse, with her relentless hospitality, was no longer in the foyer, then sped along the corridor to the door. Thankfully, the lock clicked back. The door opened and she slipped through, but not before Ben planted a large, wet kiss on her ear. Shelley dived into the car and slammed the door. She scrambled through the glove box for a tissue and scrubbed away at her ear, thinking that at any moment she might be sick. He was still there, watching, doing his depressing autumn leaf imitation against the glass. But this time, one hand was moving, waving to her. Waving, waving. It looked just like someone drowning, she thought. Someone drowning and summoning a lifeguard at the beach. She picked up the street directory and hid behind it so she wouldn't have to wave back. And that, Silkstone, is the end of chapter 2. I hope you have a really lovely evening, a lovely day tomorrow, and I'll be back to read chapter 3, Boss of the Pool, tomorrow. Bye, Silkstone. I wonder if Shelley will see Ben tomorrow if she visits the hostel with her mother. And I wonder if Shelley will treat Ben in the same way as she did today.